the headlines of this hour on VTV News. National Assembly deputies discuss specific mechanisms for Nghệ An and Da Nang. And Vietnam celebrates a decade of UN peacekeeping missions. In our world news, Shangri-La dialogue set to address key security issues.
Broadcasting from Hanoi, the capital of Vietnam, VTV News starts right now.
Good morning, it is 8 a.m. local time in Hanoi and you're watching VTV News. I'm Huyền Trân with the top stories. Now, the National Assembly split into focus groups on Friday to discuss policy pilot schemes to develop Nghệ An Province and Da Nang City. Proposals and a verification report on the draft resolution for Nghệ An's development were presented beforehand. The National Assembly also received an update on amending and supplementing the National Assembly's resolution on piloting urban government and policies being designed for Da Nang City.
In addition to limiting the Nghệ An Provincial People's Committee to no more than 5 vice chairs, the government proposed allowing this locality to transfer the additional balance from the central budget to the local budget, excluding tax revenue from hydropower production facilities and domestic revenue from mineral exploitation activities in western Nghệ An. Meanwhile, for Da Nang City, the government proposed to pilot the establishment of a free trade zone and several supporting policies for innovation, entrepreneurship, semiconductors, and artificial intelligence. Although everyone agreed that specific mechanisms and policies are needed to create new growth drivers for the locality, some bottlenecks remained.
Regarding the investment policy under the public-private partnership, I wonder whether the maximum participation rate of no more than 70% is attractive enough to attract investors. For large cities, the ability to attract investors is very good. However, for some areas, especially localities in western Nghệ An, the ability to attract investors remains relatively low.
Some deputies suggested that, in addition to issuing specific policies and mechanisms, specific procedures must be assigned to localities, with a focus on advancing policies that have been proven effective in practice.
Along with assigning many specific policies to that locality, the most important thing is assigning specific processes and procedures to them. It is even possible to enable the city's People's Committee to regulate some administrative procedures because we currently encounter difficulties regarding administrative procedures.
I agree with the option that allows Nghệ An Province to separate compensation, resettlement, and site clearance policies from public investment projects. However, many localities face obstacles related to the aforementioned content while executing public projects. I propose that the National Assembly should legalize this content in the near future.
Several deputies suggested extending the implementation of specific policies beyond the 5 years stipulated in the draft resolution.
The party and state have always paid special attention to the care and protection of children while creating the best possible conditions for their comprehensive development and ensuring a safe and healthy living environment for them. Prime Minister Phie said as he visited the Hanoi Nursing Center for Children with Disabilities on Friday. The visit marked International Children's Day and the beginning of Action Month for Children of 2024. Prime Minister Phie said that the party and state have also listened to, respected, and responded to children's opinions, striving to guarantee children's best interests while marking out relevant decisions. He urged greater determination, effort, practical actions, and resources to better care for, educate, and protect children. The Prime Minister said the whole community and society should act with the highest responsibility and provide solid support, a place for the children to place their trust, love, and confidence in the future. The 76th anniversary of the World Peacekeeping Force was recently celebrated at the United Nations headquarters in New York City, the U.S. This year also marks the 10th anniversary of Vietnam's participation in the United Nations peacekeeping. Now, amid complicated global developments, the joint force of blue helmet soldiers from many countries, including Vietnam, consolidates the belief in peace among people worldwide. More in the following.
61 UN peacekeepers from 33 countries lost their lives while safeguarding world peace last year alone. This raises the mortality of soldiers, police and civil servants serving under the UN flag in the past 76 years to more than 4,300.
The memory of our fallen blue helmets reminds us of the tragic human cost of conflict. Each loss underscores the urgent need to prevent violence, protect the most vulnerable, and spare no efforts to end these deadly conflicts.
This event aims to pay tribute to individuals who have made remarkable contributions to improving the peacekeepers' safe, fair, and effective working environment. Previously, the permanent mission of Vietnam to the United Nations also celebrated the 76th founding anniversary of the forts and the 10th anniversary of Vietnam's participation in UN peacekeeping operations. Over the past decade, more than 800 Blue Beret soldiers from the Vietnam People's Army and the Vietnam People's Public Security have gone on missions. They have participated in many missions worldwide, including South Sudan, the Central African Republic, RBA, and the Department of Peace Operations at the United Nations headquarters. The responsible, proactive, and creative Vietnamese soldiers have helped promote the expertise and prowess of the Vietnam Armed Forces in the international arena.
Now, to shorten the construction time and bring the 500 kilovolt Circuit 3 project to the finish line as committed on June 30th, Vietnam Electricity has mobilized 1,500 engineers and skilled workers to support this key project.
The 500 kilovolt Circuit 3 project spans 519 kilometers and includes 1,177 utility poles, of which nearly 61% have been completed. According to the assignment, the reinforcements are divided into 119 teams, each with about 15 people. For electricity workers, putting aside family matters to focus on the project's progress is a great honor.
To prepare for this job, we chose fit and experienced workers. Up to this moment, we new guys have grasped the situation and assembled the necessary tools for the job.
There are only 30 days left to complete the project, so increasing human resources will shorten the construction time.
We traveled more than 700 kilometers just to get here. We can determine to integrate into the lives of the local people, adapt to their needs, and complete the 500 kilovolt Circuit 3 project on schedule.
We sent the first group of workers to the construction site to assess the situation and ensure the availability of tools for the other workers. Coordinating those two groups will ensure they can smoothly carry out the assigned tasks.
Once completed, the 500 kilovolt Circuit 3 project will increase the transmission capacity between the central and northern regions from 2,000 megawatts at present to about 500 megawatts and increase the amount of commercial electricity by over 20 billion kilowatts hour, meeting the electricity demand for the country's economic development.
The State Bank of Vietnam has just requested credit institutions and foreign bank branches implement ways to make credit and interest rates cheaper. Specifically, they want banks to reduce costs, simplify lending procedures, and increase the use of information technology and digital transformation in lending processes. This move aims to drive 1 to 2% lending interest rate reductions, especially for traditional growth drivers, emerging industries, green transformation, circular economy, and social housing to support businesses and customers, and to increase access to bank credit capital. It is anticipated to maintain a stable and a reasonable interest rate level, consistent with balancing capital, expanding healthy credit and risk management capacity, and stabilizing the monetary market and interest rate level. Currently, farmers of Thanh Hà District, Hải Dương Province are busy harvesting lychees. This year's output has significantly dropped due to adverse weather conditions. The output in Thanh Hà District is projected to be around 22,000 tons, roughly half of the 2023 yield. To offset this decline, lychee growers and Haizong provincial authorities are emphasizing quality care and promoting consumption to enhance the value of lychees.
Due to weather conditions, Nguyen's family expects their lychee output to be only half of last year's, around 7 to 8 tons. However, despite the reduced yield, the price of lychee has increased compared to previous years.
In recent years, the value of Thanh Ha lychees has consistently risen due to expanding export markets, with increases ranging from 15 to 20% to as much as 50%. For instance, my lychees typically sold for $2.5 per kilogram. This year they're fetching almost $5 per kilogram.
Thanh Ha has 48 lychee growing areas with 167 growing area codes approved for major markets, including China, Australia, Japan, France, the United States, South Korea, and more. To further expand consumption markets and enhance product quality, a Thanh Ha lychee trade promotion conference was held in early May. According to Vietnamese trade offices abroad, businesses and farmers need to adopt a more systematic approach to increase the export value and market share of lychees.
Lately, emerging small-scale enterprises rely on air transportation for exports. However, the absence of long-term preservation technology hinders our ability to export lychee via sea routes, which could significantly reduce costs. To expand market share in the future, our focus needs to be on improving preservation techniques and lowering transportation expenses. This will help ensure that prices to Europe remain at reasonable levels, acceptable to consumers.
Processing and adding value to fruit products is a viable direction for localities, businesses, and farmers. By doing so, we can extract more value from lychees than merely exporting them fresh.
Expanding consumer markets, investing in preservation processes, and improving product quality are key focus areas for Thanh Ha in the near future.
The limited shelf life of these agricultural goods necessitates further action. Thus, we're actively inviting businesses to the region not only to purchase fresh lychees for export, but also to engage in processing. This shift aims to enhance the value of our agricultural products by transforming them into processed goods.
To ensure the quality of lychees for export, Thanh Ha District is rigorously maintaining and controlling 167 growing area codes. It is anticipated that the selling price of Thanh Ha lychees in export markets will be 15 to 30% higher than last year.
Time magazine of the United States recently named Vietnamese electric vehicle maker VinFast in its list of the Time 100 most influential companies 2024, alongside Google, Microsoft, and Amazon. The reputable magazine has ranked VinFast in the Disruptors group and dubbed the Vietnamese car company an EV splash. The magazine outlined that the Vietnamese car company has made a global impact in the EV industry due to the lightning pace of its factory construction in just 21 months. Along with VinFast's vast production scale and miraculous developments, the media outlet also pointed out that VFS shares rocketed up by 700% in the first 2 weeks after the company was listed on the U.S. stock exchange. Coming up next on VTV News. Landslides worsen in a Mekong River Delta. And Ho Chi Minh City seeks to develop river tourism. Welcome back to VTV News. Now, the north-south passenger and freight trains have been allowed to resume using the Thi Thạch Tunnel in the south-central province of Phú Yên after landslides occurred inside the tunnel, halting rail service 10 days ago. A technical train started a test run in the tunnel at 11:45 a.m. on May 31st, before a passenger train followed at 5 km per hour to continue the technical inspection at 2:30 p.m. A 23-car-long, 940-ton freight train also traveled through the tunnel numerous times. On May 21st, the tracks were blocked by a landslide that deposited around 200 cubic meters of rocks and soil inside the T-Tank tunnel in Phie, paralyzing the north-south rail service due to the tunnel being unusable. In the Mekong River Delta, landslides have occurred more frequently recently, causing great damage to local people's properties and threatening their lives. The latest landslide were reported on Friday morning on the bank of Binh Thuy River, Lam Hoa Ward, Binh Thuy District in Cần Thơ City. The 70-meter-long landslide took away 8 meters of the bank and partially damaged 10 houses. During the past 2 months, 10 instances of riverbank erosion have occurred in Cần Thơ City, causing damage of at least 12 billion Vietnam dong to tens of locals' homes. Even though the season's first rains have just appeared, many provinces and cities in the Mekong Delta have experienced ongoing riverbank landslides. Recently, Cha Vinh province declared an emergency after a landslide on the banks of the Co Chien River in Châu Thành district. In Sóc Trăng, serious landslides are also occurring along the banks of Hậu River. In recent years, smart villages, hamlets, and communes have emerged as a pioneering initiative of new rural development. In Dan Phuong District, Hanoi, the integration of vibrant flower-lined paths, spacious new homes, and lush green spaces highlight the transformation brought by a smart village. Join us in the following story to learn about a successful smart village pilot.
QR codes have become a familiar sight in Thu Quay village, Song Phuong commune over the past year. Lam completed his grandson's birth registration with a simple QR scan at a community cultural site. 10 such points have been installed in the village to enhance residents' amenities.
The process is now quick and efficient. I no longer have to spend too much time commuting to get birth and death registration done.
All 4 villages in Song Phuong commune are certified smart villages, meeting the criteria for internet infrastructure, smart devices, smart rural management, social connectivity, and rural services. Non-cash payment methods are commonplace even among older people like Ting.
I may not be young anymore, but I'm a fast learner. With the help of community technology groups, I have quickly adapted to new technologies.
36 smart self-management groups, each with its own Zalo group, operate effectively and play a crucial role in the success of the pilot smart villages. Information about schools, policies, and guidelines reaches residents quickly, and their feedback is addressed promptly.
Currently, nearly 98% of households in Song Phuong use smart devices and tablets, and 100% of commune officials use smart applications to connect with the community. The seamless operation of smart villages helps residents and cooperatives to thrive in the digital age.
E-cigarettes are increasingly popular among 13 to 15 years old in Vietnam. In addition to nicotine addiction and poisoning, another danger from e-cigarettes is the mixing of drugs. Due to these threats, experts have proposed banning the circulation of these products in the Vietnamese market. Protecting children and adolescents from tobacco industry interference is also this year's World No Tobacco Day theme.
These 2 adolescents have tried smoking patchouli, a type of e-cigarette mixed with synthetic drugs.
When I smoked, I lost control and wanted to jump from the 2nd floor to the 1st floor. I was a high school student at that time.
Some e-cigarette stores openly sell e-cigarette essential oils containing drugs.
These are drugs disguised as e-cigarettes. The type of cigarettes has drug impurities. Those bottles will have a lot of cannabis essential oils. Simply speaking, it is a form of liquid ecstasy.
In the past 5 years, the National Institute of Forensic Medicine found that 120 out of 160 e-cigarette samples contained at least one type of new generation drug. The Law on Prevention and Control of Tobacco Harms and its guiding documents do not specify regulations on e-cigarettes and heated tobacco products. The Ministry of Health and several National Assembly deputies have proposed banning new generation cigarettes.
I earnestly suggest that the National Assembly promptly amend the Law on Prevention and Control of Tobacco Harms at the 8th session at the end of the year to include provisions on preventing the harmful effects of new generation tobacco products.
All levels, departments and agencies, especially the National Assembly and the government, must devise strict legal remedies such as banning the production and promotion of new generation tobacco products, including e-cigarettes and heated tobacco products in a timely manner.
Over the past 3 years, the rate of e-cigarette use among students in Vietnam has increased at an alarming rate. In the 13 to 15 age group, the rate has more than doubled from 3.5% in 2022 to 8% in 2023. The consequences of cigarettes can be foreseen, including social evils, diseases, and degradation of reproduction.
The Saigon River, which extends for 256 kilometers and flows through Ho Chi Minh City for about 80 kilometers, has great potential for the socio-economic development of the city and the entire Southeast region. Now, to awaken the potential of a river city with more than 300 years of history, Ho Chi Minh City is developing economic activities tied to the Saigon River, including the second Ho Chi Minh City River Festival, which has many appealing events.
A culinary space opened for the second Ho Chi Minh City River Festival on Friday. With 24 booths, the 3-day event introduces visitors to the river region's signature dishes, cakes, fruits, and products.
This is the first time I've been to this festival. There are many delicious dishes here.
International tourists are delighted by the variety of food and drinks here.
It's our first time to Vietnam. We've been here about 4 days, and this is our first stop, and it's been amazing.
We tried pho, and we want to try some banh mi next.
The Saigon River is truly a priceless gift to the people of the southeastern region. It flows through the forests of Củ Chi and Cần Giờ. When seen from above, the Saigon River meanders like a soft silk strip. The river is a great resource for Ho Chi Minh City to take advantage of and kickstart its economic development potential, including tourism.
We aim to diversify the city's tourism and sports activities to develop the city's tourism. That's why we are organizing the River Festival.
A more systematic plan, focusing on the river ports and waterways to develop the economy and tourism is needed to catalyze the potential of the riverside urban area along the Saigon River, in addition to developing river-linked events to create a distinctive brand.
The old Saigon port was crucial to the city because it facilitated imports and exports. Since the trading ports have been moved to the outskirts, the old port can still contribute to the city by becoming a tourism port.
According to experts, the Saigon River can become a heritage river, a cultural, historical river, a river meeting everyday needs, transportation, and the economy. If the river, its banks and land resources are well utilized, it will bring great economic benefits to the city and its people.
Coming up next in our world news. Shangri-La dialogue set to address key security issues. And U.S. and Chinese defense chiefs hold first in-person talks since 2022. Now moving on to our world news, government leaders, defense officials, and diplomats from all around the world are gathering in Singapore for this year's Shangri-La dialogue. The dialogue is held annually by the International Institute for Strategic Studies, or IISS, as a platform for government officials, business leaders, and security experts to discuss pressing security concerns. 7 plenary sessions on critical and emerging security issues will commence, featuring defense ministers and senior officials. There are also 6 special sessions where policymakers and scholars touch on strategic challenges and multiple bilateral meetings held on the fringes of the event. The discussions are expected to resolve around the tense relationship between China and the United States, as well as several other key security issues. One of the notable sidelined events of this year's Shangri-La dialogue was the rare talks between U.S. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin and his Chinese counterpart, Defense Minister Dong Jun, on Friday in Singapore. Now, during the meeting, the two sides both agreed that a stable U.S.-China military-to-military relationship is important. This meeting was deemed positive, practical, and constructive by the Chinese military spokesperson. Meanwhile, according to a readout from the Pentagon, the U.S. Defense Secretary referenced plans that both sides will resume telephone conversations between theater commands in the coming months. This is the first official meeting between the two countries' defense ministers since 2022, when China's key military communication lines were cut off after former House Speaker Nancy Pelosi's visit to Taiwan, China.
Went well.
Foreign ministers from NATO held an informal meeting on Friday in Prague, where they plan to discuss ways to put military aid for Ukraine on a more solid long-term footing and hammer out details before the alliance's July summit. Some NATO countries have argued that Ukraine must be able to hit Russia with the weapons supported by NATO, while others have said that their weapons can only be used in Ukraine, reflecting fears that striking inside Russia would drag the West into the conflict. Meanwhile, U.S. officials said on Thursday that U.S. President Joe Biden has given permission to Ukraine to strike inside Russian territory with American ammunition, though he has restricted their use, so Kiev can only hit targets over the border close to Kharkiv. Earlier this week, Russian President Vladimir Putin warned the West that NATO members in Europe were playing with fire by proposing to let Ukraine use Western weapons to strike deep inside Russia, which he said could trigger a global conflict. Now let's move on to the weather forecast. And that's all the news we have for this hour. To rewatch our program, you can download our mobile app VTVgo or check out our YouTube channel VTV4Go. Thank you for watching and see you next time.